There's no leadership. Now he's just flat surrendering the fight. Instead of leading the charge to defeat the virus, he just basically waved a white flag and has retreated. He's so eager to get back on his campaign, to his campaign rallies, that he'll put people at risk, as everyone's pointed out, in violation of the CDC guidelines that still warn against large gatherings, as long as he's going to allow this to happen. But he's ready to do it as long as, notwithstanding CDC guidance, as long as the people showing up sign a waiver promising they'll not hold the campaign liable. Oh, man. Donald Trump's failure to focus that he uses to troll his enemies on Twitter has cost us lives and is putting hope for an economic recovery at risk. Job numbers and retail sales were better than expected in May, and that's great news for the country. But now Donald Trump's desire to declare victory and be done with it is only going to imperil the continued progress we have to make. Our economy is still sputtering, with more than 20 million people unemployed and no clear guidance from the federal government for what businesses need to do to reopen safely, efficiently, and generate a strong recovery. No, this isn't a debate about whether to reopen. It's about how we make reopening work for everyone. The employees at the White House, they get daily COVID-19 tests. They know they're safe before they go to work, and they know their coworkers are safe. They have the confidence to resume their lives. But workers across the country aren't asking for daily testing. They're just asking for regular, reliable access to tests. Don't they deserve that? So it's not that Donald Trump doesn't recognize the importance of testing. It's that he's not up to the task or doesn't care. And now he's seemingly decided he doesn't even want to try. But just like he couldn't wish COVID, just like he couldn't tweet it away in April, he can't ignore it away in June. So I have some basic questions for President Donald Trump. What are you going to do to make sure every worker has access to regular testing so they have the same confidence to go into a store or go back to work that White House staffers have? Why are you leaving schools and child care centers to navigate the uncertainty all on their own without an effective guidance and resources that they need to protect the kids and their communities? Why don't you enforce the OSHA standards for worker protection during this global pandemic? Why is it the mainstream lending program created more than 2 months ago by the Congress to help struggling small businesses only open for registration to lenders 2 days ago and still hasn't distributed a single penny? Why don't you just close the names, Mr. President, of the businesses who received a total of $500 billion in taxpayers' funding? Why are they being hidden? How many cronies got bailouts? How many donors? How many big businesses didn't need it? What business had to shut down because they were denied funding in April? What businesses didn't get special approval that others got by a nod from the top? Why did you get rid of the watchdog, Mr. President? Why did you get rid of the watchdog appointed to oversee every dollar distributed. An inspector general. Why did you get rid of that person? The Congress passed. What are you trying to hide? It's a bad management on top of bad planning, on top of neglect. And it's totally unacceptable for a great nation like ours. Folks, here's the truth. The pandemic is still here. It's going to be here for the foreseeable future until we get it under control. Proven, widely available vaccine. COVID-19 is a fact of nature. We have to deal with this virus and everything that comes with it. We have to deal with it head on, honestly. Tell the people the truth. Paraphrase Franklin Roosevelt in the Depression. The American people can handle anything. Just tell them the truth. You can't deal with it the way you're doing it. The only way to deal with it, Mr. President, if we put in the work, investing in building a dynamic, resilient economy and health system, capable of getting and then staying ahead of new outbreaks. We have the capacity and the resources to do that. I've laid out baseline steps of what needs to be done, from make it work checklists for successful, accountable recovery that I put out back in early April, to the steps for a strong reopening that I released last week. It's not rocket science. Granted, I have incredible scientists advising me on almost a daily basis on how to proceed, but it's not rocket science, it's common sense. It's straightforward. And that's why this is perhaps the greatest indictment of Donald Trump's complete, compelling lack of leadership. He wasted months and months and months passing the buck, blaming everyone else, refusing to act when he should have been preparing our country for a long-term response and building up our resiliency to respond to future flare-ups. Yet, we still don't have a comprehensive system for collecting COVID-19 case data. These are the basics. He should have been preparing us to weather the valleys and peaks of this virus. He should have been working to shore up the vulnerabilities in our healthcare system that have been laid bare in this crisis and he's trying to eliminate in court. He should have been working to bridge the inequities and strengthen the cracks in the foundation of our economic system that have exposed for everyone to see. He hasn't done any of it. Because of the depths of Donald Trump's failures, this pandemic will continue to be worse for all Americans and much worse for Black and brown Americans who are getting hit the hardest. Folks in communities like Darby Borough and Yeadon, Donald Trump thinks that if he puts his head in the sand, the American people will too. But it doesn't work that way. Not when hundreds of people are still dying every day and millions are unemployed, wondering how in God's name they're going to keep the lights on and food on the table. Not when workers are weighed down with worries about their safety or what happens if they get sick. And there are the steps that we need to be taking now to steer us steadily and strongly in the right direction, see us through this time, to make a more resilient future. They're all available. First, we have to do everything we can to avoid deadly spikes in the infections as people begin to go back out into the world. We're not that much better prepared today for the run of cases that overfills our intensive care units than we were 3 months ago. Second, we have to help give people the assurance and precautions that are necessary to restart the economy with confidence. If Americans lose what faith they have left, what little faith they have left in the government's ability to manage this pandemic, we'll see much deeper and longer lasting economic impacts and with even greater repercussions for people's well-beings. Mr. President, don't leave the American people to face this threat on their own with no guidance, resources, or leadership from the federal government. Don't let support from the CARES Act expire next month while people are still hurting. Don't leave our frontline workers exposed without the resources they need, and don't waste any more of our time, Mr. President. The American people need confidence of clear guidance, grounded in science that's going to allow them to resume their daily lives. American businesses need the support of the federal government to continue to backstop them through this phases of reopening. And workers need assurances that their health is your first concern. Americans need a president who will put the American people first, not his or her own ego. America needs a president who will do the work. I'm ready on day one after more than 3 years in office. Why isn't Donald Trump ready? Mr. President, wake up. Get to work. There's so much more to be done.
Joe Biden there speaking in Pennsylvania and blasting the Trump administration's response to coronavirus. He said essentially it has surrendered the fight against it. He took on Vice President Mike Pence, trying to declare victory over coronavirus. He said that this administration is engaging in self-congratulations. And Jessica Dean is joining me now from the event. And he also at the end signed off there, Jessica. He said, wake up, which I thought was sort of an interesting jab at President Trump, considering the moniker that President Trump has for him. He's accusing President Trump of being asleep on the job when it comes to coronavirus.
That's right. We saw him go right at President Trump and his response to the coronavirus, as you just saw there. This was all about lack of leadership that Joe Biden believes is being displayed by President Trump. To your point, he said, wake up, get to work. There is so much to be done. And said that the president has essentially waved the white flag and is retreating when it comes to the fight with this virus. Former Vice President Joe Biden spending the day just outside Philadelphia in the suburbs here, talking to small business owners about how to safely reopen the economy, and then giving the remarks here behind us. And he's trying to make the point that Donald Trump is wrong when it comes to coronavirus in so many ways. But the biggest point here is that Joe Biden believes that you can both reopen the economy and take care of public health, that it is not one choice or the other. But those stark words, we heard him go directly at the sitting president, at President Trump, Brianna, and telling him that he is just asleep at the wheel, that that Americans are worse off because of his lack of leadership. So really direct words today from former Vice President Joe Biden.
All right, Jessica Dean, thank you so much. Out on the trail with Joe Biden. And this just into CNN, a passenger aboard an American Airlines flight from New York to Dallas was forced to deplane after refusing to wear a mask. I want to go to CNN aviation correspondent Pete Muntean. Pete, this is something that we're just learning about, so tell us what happened here.
Well, Brianna, this is the first such incident we've at least heard like this, and it will unlikely be the last. Let me just sort of walk you through this. There was a tweet that went viral earlier this afternoon, a 12:30 American Airlines flight from New York's LaGuardia Airport to Dallas-Fort Worth. And in that tweet is a video where you can hear a confrontation taking place in the background between flight attendants, other passengers, and a passenger who refused to wear a mask. Now, we know from American Airlines that flight ultimately did depart, but the passenger was booted from that flight and is now being rebooked onto another flight. American Airlines notes that several times throughout its procedures of boarding the plane, once on board the plane, they remind passengers to wear a mask. This comes at a really critical time for the airlines when they've essentially added teeth to their mask policies. United, American, and Delta now all saying that they will ban a passenger who refuses to wear a mask from flying on that carrier again. So we do not know in this case if this passenger was banned. We do know that that passenger was rebooked. This also comes during a time when there is a void of federal regulations on commercial airlines when it comes to wearing a mask. The FAA administrator on the Hill today said that he supports CDC guidelines, but stopped short of enacting any new regulations. The industry, the airline industry, is really out trying to enforce this policy on their own. And there's a bit of a patchwork of policies. No federal rule about this yet, though, Brianna.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like we're going to get one anytime soon, Pete. Thank you so much, Pete Muntean. And our special coverage continues now with Brooke Baldwin.